The UN Single Convention on Narcotics in 1961, as amended in 1975, currently has 186 parties who have ratified its provisions that include severely restricting cannabis. While it allows for medical use and research, there is no allowance for commercial sales and general or adult use or recreational use. Uruguay became the first country to legalize cannabis for adult use in 2013, followed by Canada in 2018. Since then, that list has grown to include Malta, Thailand, South Africa, Georgia, and Mexico. It is important to distinguish that each nation is at different stages of decriminalization, cannabis commercialization, and the shift away from being a strictly medical product to being as commonplace as regulated drugs like alcohol and tobacco. Canada, arguably, has the most mature, nationally legal, adult use supply chain that likely represents the basis of an international standard. Currently, though, all of these countries are in breach of their treaty obligations. Mexico, on the other hand, has had the adult right to cannabis use confirmed by its Supreme Court in 2018, but still lacks the formal regulatory structure to conduct legal sales and production because its Congress has failed to pass the necessary legislation. This is not uncommon, unfortunately, and the United States has a very similar dynamic. While the federal government maintains the prohibition of cannabis, nearly every state has passed laws that allow for some medical use, and more than 2/3 have created some kind of limited market that includes cultivation and sales. The 19 adult use states encompass more than half of the US population. The variations that exist across the states in tax and regulatory specifics often mirror the differences in how jurisdictions control alcohol, including limiting licensing, restricting high-potency products to state-owned outlets, or, like in Canada, allowing for provincial monopolies of wholesale. By statute, most states are in violation of federal law, and every individual involved in a plant-touching cannabis commerce is considered a criminal. In practice, the U.S. Department of Justice has been increasingly hands-off when it comes to enforcement, due to the existence of the long-running budget amendments which prevent spending on prosecuting state legal medical cannabis programs. While individual state legislatures and regulators continue to experiment with balancing taxes, regulations, and enforcement against personal liberty, freedom of commerce, and restorative justice, the federal government remains far away from legalization. The linchpin of national prohibition is the categorization of cannabis as a Schedule I substance, which again means that the federal government does not recognize its medical use and considers it to have a high risk of abuse. If cannabis was to be rescheduled, meaning it is moved to a less restrictive category, it would still be illegal to possess without a prescription. The idea of prescribing a plant doesn't fit in with current medical practice, and removing cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act entirely remains the only way to truly decriminalize it. Despite the House of Representatives twice passing a cannabis descheduling bill, in this case the Marijuana Opportunity, Reinvestment, and Expungement Act, in 2 consecutive congressional cycles, the Senate has failed to advance anything but a narrow research bill out of committee and has passed no significant cannabis reform out of the chamber. Once Congress does deschedule cannabis, individual states will still have a tremendous amount of discretion in regulating how cannabis is treated within their borders, including banning non-commercial home grow or imposing crippling taxes on industry and consumers. Whether Congress explicitly clears the way for interstate commerce with a descheduling bill also remains an open question. There would be significant political pressure on protecting state markets from out-of-state competition. The assumption is that these conditions will equalize over time, but that is not a guarantee. Cannabis policy, regulation, and law is a rapidly evolving field in the United States and internationally. No one locality or country can claim to be doing everything right. There remains a long list of areas to address, from local control to workplace drug testing, to insurance reimbursement, to expungements and clemency, to operator education and training, even after adult use legalization is achieved. The devil is in the details, and so it's important to understand the process and politics behind it.